Okay, so you've got some cottontails. So I'll bring you everything back, so you can just sit tight and we'll be right back. No problem. One very common cause for admission we tend to see here at Salthaven are animal attacks, specifically cats. We get in songbirds and small mammals that come in after they've been a victim of a cat attack. You might think that it's harmless, but the problem is that cat saliva has a pathogenic nature which can really negatively affect the animals that they catch. So even if you have an outdoor cat and they just gently carry a bird to your back door and drop it and the bird's still alive, they still need to come into our care because we need to give them a course of antibiotics. And oftentimes you don't see the damage that it's done. Or is that a puncture wound on his belly? So here in Canada, it's estimated that cats are responsible for about 350 million songbird deaths annually. In the States, it's actually up to 1 or 2 billion deaths annually. And we also can directly attribute cats for the extinction of 34 species of songbirds here in Ontario. So that is a staggering number, and you can see how that can really negatively affect the biodiversity of the birds that we have here in southwestern Ontario. So we got a call about these very tiny bunnies last night. Our donor found them outside of their garage door. He found one, and the one that he found was really cold. So he picked it up and tried to warm it up in his hands, and he realized that it was still alive. So once he realized there were bunnies and not mice, because they're so small, he went out and scoured the property to find more of the babies, and he found 6 in total. Brought them in, put them on a heating pad. It's really important to keep them warm. He did notice that there was injuries all over them. He does have like a farm property, so there were feral cats outside. And it turns out that it was the cats that got to the nest. And these injuries are consistent with that. Lots of puncture wounds, lots of lacerations. So he searched last night and he searched again this morning to make sure that he gathered up all of the bunnies. One of them didn't make it through the night, unfortunately, but he did the right thing. He brought them inside, he put them on a warm heating pad. He looked for the mom, he looked for the nest. He wasn't able to find the nest so he could put the bunnies back, because obviously their best chances with mom. In this case, after an animal interaction, we have to make sure that we get them started on antibiotics, because the cat saliva can be detrimental to the animals. So after he brought them all inside, he had them on a heating pad and kept them really warm throughout the night and brought them here to us as soon as he could.
Basically a drop,
right.
An 18 gauge syringe.
And is that Batral's BID? Sorry, SID I mean?
We're doing it SID.
Because you doubled it.
Yep.
Okay.
Once a day.
Now they're going to go through a regimen. They're going to be on an antibiotic course, pain management course, and we're going to be having to feed these guys by hand. And they're very, very young. They still have their umbilical stump attached, so they're only a couple days old. So bunnies are challenging, and these little ones are even more challenging. So we're going to have to make sure to keep them hydrated and keep their weight gaining. And we're going to probably have to glue together some of these wounds. And we're going to have to tend to the degloving and everything there.
Keep your cats indoors if possible. There's so many ways to keep them happy indoors too. A lot of our incoming patients are caught by cat just because that's their instinct. They're hunting predators basically, so that's what they want to do. And that's fine, but there's other ways that we can kind of enrich them without having the impact on wildlife, because some of the cases that we see are pretty gruesome, but there is a pretty good success rate.
Get you to open that for me.
So there's things you can do to help though. We always recommend that people work hard on creating a happy and healthy environment for their cats inside, because not only is it harmful to the animals that they might catch, it's actually really harmful for the cats as well. So the average lifespan of a cat is say 15 to 20 years. An outdoor cat, that actually drops to about 7 years. So they're at the risk of being hit by vehicles, they're at the risk of contracting diseases themselves like FIV, feline IV, and feline leukemia, but also ticks, parasites, fleas, and all of the other things that they could catch as well.
Well, you know, when I first started this, I tried suturing, and oh my gosh, you made more of a mess than you were helping. And So then I got the bright idea one time. I was talking to a neurosurgeon friend of mine, Dr. Howard Reichman, and he said, why don't you just glue that? I said, you can do that? He said, yeah. So I had this, if you can just hold his head, and I'll hold his body. So that was when we started using a product called suture cement. It's made by 3M, and it works. Sometimes you have to improvise when you're working with wildlife, you know? Mm-hmm. Can't be running to the vet all the time.
We have 3 educational pieces on YouTube that share ideas with people as to how you can make your cat happy inside. It's safer for the cat too, you know. And cats can be trained, believe it or not. You know, they are smart. In fact, smarter than a lot of people, and they're very manipulative. But they can be trained, and they can be trained to enjoy their life inside, and that's what these videos are all about.
When it's really difficult to use the glue is when you have an adult and they've been degloved by a cat or a dog, and it's really painful for them. So we have to debride the wound, clean it all up. When they're all done, and we use glue for them as well, unless they're old enough that we can actually suture, but we're able to, there, he's good. We're able to use the glue on them as well, but now they have fur, unlike these little guys that just have scant fur, and it's really difficult because the fur gets involved and you have to shave, and when the fur grows back in, they look like a patch quilt, you know. It's just, but it does, it works, and eventually that fur grows normal and everything is okay. But it's, like I say, you just have to improvise sometimes and do the best you can with what you got to work with.
Right front armpit.
Okay, so we're kind of like a gorilla mash unit out here, you know. We have scant supplies to work with, and you learn to improvise. And in a lot of cases, it works out okay. But after 30 years of doing wildlife rehabilitation, you kind of know what works and what doesn't, you know? And it's an ever-changing field too. Education side of it is really important because drugs that worked yesterday don't work today. You know, in a world of changing climate, there's emerging diseases that 10 years ago we had very little knowledge about, if any at all. So it's one of those things that we have to just be, if you can just hold that leg, the front leg.
Front leg.
Yep. Perfect. And there's a good possibility, you know, we're doing all this to ourselves with climate change. Things are changing in the world, and diseases that we have never seen before are changing. Drugs that used to work in the past don't work anymore. So, you know, there's a real reason why we need to be careful with what we're doing in the environment, because wildlife really serves as a barometer in the environment to what's going on out there, and what happens to them usually ends up happening to us. So, I think
Unfortunately, we do see many animals that have been caught by cats, and not always with pleasant results. I just would like to remind people that we are cohabitating this world with animals, and we are on their land, in their environments, and we need to be very aware of that and cognizant of that, and that what we are doing may have an effect on them and their habitat.
We often hear, oh man, I didn't know that, or I've never seen one of those before. So that education process is alive and well in the clinic, as well as our ongoing education presentations. This last couple of years has been hard for Salthaven with COVID, and now this highly pathogenic avian influenza has required us to adapt quickly, as has nature had to adapt. But with that adaptation, we're able to continue on admitting animals and helping them. But we have to be careful, because some of these diseases they're zoonotics, they're transferable to people, as well as people may be transferring them to the animals, so we have to take extra precautions. So the way we work now is significantly different than it was even 2 years ago. You know, PPE gear and making sure that our volunteers are safe. That's our first thing. Our volunteer program rests on 3 pillars. Number 1, keeping volunteers safe. Number 2, keeping the animals safe. And number 3, helping our volunteers have a meaningful experience while they're here. So our trainers are always looking out for the volunteers in the sense that they want them to feel at home here and comfortable and safe. And I think for the large part, we're doing that.
So this little guy here is an infant mink. We think he's about 20 days old. Minks are from the mustelid family, so the same as weasels and skunks, because they actually have that musk gland and they do emit an odor. And even at this age, even though he's really small and his gland isn't fully formed, you can still already smell it. We think he's about 20 days old. He's been here with us for about 4 days, and he came in because he was caught by a cat. He has some minor degloving, which means that the skin is missing from that area because the cat had him in his mouth and his paws. So we had to just put some dermagel on to form a protective layer over the skin to keep the wound clean and hydrated. So it's just going to heal naturally on its own. It wasn't so significant that we had to glue the skin together in order for it to heal. So the skin will close on its own in this case, and we're keeping a close eye on it. And Paige right now is trying to formula feed him because they'd still be nursing from their mom at this age. So she's using a syringe with a nipple attached to it, and we keep the formula nice and warm, and we just manually feed them. The thing with this family of mustelids is they don't actually latch on and suck. They actually kind of just chew. They do have teeth at this age. They are carnivores, so we are offering him some mouse as well. And when we give it to him, we try to mimic what the mom would do in the den. And what she would do is she would bring the prey into the den, and she would cut it open in the middle. So when we offer them the mice in their enclosure, we actually cut a slit in the middle so that they can eat all the soft tissue and the organs. They keep their eyes closed for about a month, so we think that he's got maybe another couple weeks with his eyes closed still. Their ears are closed too, so they're not too sensitive to sound at this time. But what we do want to make sure we do is we're keeping them nice and warm. We've got them in an incubator with some humidity in there, just to mimic that nice warm burrow that he would be in if he was still with mom. We feed them about every 2 hours, so it's a really dedicated, involved process where we're caring for them pretty much around the clock. Now he's at an age that he doesn't need to be fed through the night, which is nice, so we can just get him the amount of feedings he needs through the day, and then he's fine to last through the night. And we are offering him that mouse already to supplement the formula, but right now formula is his primary source of nutrition. You can see his front feet. They're kind of almost like little shovels because they're good little diggers and they can burrow under the ground. They have either semi-retractable or non-retractable claws, so they're not like your cat where their claws can come in and out. So these are 2 young painted turtles that we have. The first one came to us missing his front left limb, or at least half of it. It looks like it had maybe been nibbled off during predation. but he managed to escape the attack. So he came to us when somebody found him in his yard, and same with the other little guy, came to us when someone found him in his yard. These guys are hatchlings, and I know that because when they came in, they actually still had their umbilical stump attached to the underside of the carapace. So I'm just gonna do a quick check because hopefully these little friends are slated for release today. We've got them in our tub room, and I just removed the heat lamps because they get their heat from basking in the sun. That's how they warm themselves up. And we keep them in some nice shallow water with lots of enrichment, lots of places to hide. Oh yeah, so that's healed up really nice. There is part of the limb there. He's just got it tucked in right now. So painted turtles here in Ontario are a species of concern federally, which means that their numbers are going down, and we actually do need to make conservation efforts to protect them and also to protect their habitat. Just getting a good look at this injury. Our little friend looks pretty good. And let's check his little buddy and make sure that they're doing okay as well. Gosh, they're just so tiny. This one's even smaller. Now you don't want to flip a turtle right over and back too fast because it can actually cause an air bubble, and it could be detrimental to them in their tummies. And the identifying feature of these painted turtles, you can see on the back of their head, they have those yellow spots, and on the side they have the yellow spots. Right now, turtles are laying their eggs, so we are getting a lot of calls from residences where they have a turtle in their backyard, often snapping turtles right now too. Snapping turtles will go quite far to come up out of the water and lay their egg. If you do see one and there's no visible sign of distress, and you live anywhere near water, your best bet is to give us a call for advice. And often what that advice will be is to just leave it because she's probably out laying. And when you find these little ones too, they're typically just trying to find their way back from their nest after they've hatched and finding their way down to the water. I mean, size perspective right now, their shells are probably the size of a toonie. So we're going to be flying Shakar today. He is a lager falcon. They're not native here in Ontario. They're actually native to Southeast Asia. So he's a typically more warm climate bird. So we're kind of getting into his weather preference now. What I'm doing right now is attaching what we call a creance. So when the birds that we work with all wear equipment. So they've got anklets on. Going through the anklets are leather jesses. They can be made out of paracord or leather. And then we would either attach a swivel of some sort. There's a few different types of swivels. This one here is just like a clip. And then you'd have a leash typically attached. What I've done though is I've attached a swivel and the creance. The creance is a modified fishing line. And what it does is it lets me control how much drag the bird pulls. We use this for a couple of different things. Today we're using it to test fly, or to fly Shakar because he isn't quite ready to fly free fly yet. So this way, if we have a fly off, I can add drag and I can control how fast he lands. So basically the idea is to gradually add the drag, let him land slowly, and then we avoid a fly off. He's also telling me that there's something in the sky right now. We have to be really in tune with their behavior and their body language because he is going to be free flighted. He's a medium-sized bird, but that means that there are birds and other predators out there that could be in the sky that we have to be really vigilant for. So we pay attention to his body language because he can see things that we don't even know are out there. He has two focal points in his eyes, one to see close up and one to see far away. So when he looks up, we look up. So the creance today is just going to basically control so that he doesn't fly off. We do use the creance for our patients as well. If we need to test fly them, we can hook them onto the creance, we can add equipment on, and we can test fly them to make sure that they've healed and that they're flying well. So we would watch for symmetry of their wings, we'd make sure their tails aren't pumping too hard, and that's going to help them build up muscle before release, and it's also going to let us know when they're ready for release.
Good.
Okay, well, let's take a step back. He's doing pretty good. So each take a step back. So that's exactly what we wanted the crayons to do. He missed his target, which is okay. We're actually, if he's choosing to not land, that's okay. We let him go to where he wants to go. And then I used the crayons and I slowly brought him down. So he didn't jerk and then be brought down to the ground. He just went nice and gently. And now what we're gonna do is send him back to where he last successfully completed a pass, which is gonna be back to Mike. So Max, you might need to get where he can see you. That's our favorite, when he chooses to walk and not use his wings. So what we're ultimately doing is we're trying to get him back to free-flighted. So watch his tail there, Mike. So we're using the crayons just for now until he can get used to flying back outside after the long winter. And once he's back to flying well between the gloves, we're going to take the crayons off and we'll attach some telemetry. And what the telemetry does is it is just like a radio tracker. So if he does choose to have a fly off and actually leave the premises, we can use the receiver that we have on our end to find where he is and go and retrieve him. So the goal with the crayons is to make sure that they don't notice that they have the crayons on. Yeah, good call. So sometimes when they land on the glove, the talon can get caught under the seam of our glove, or he thinks that he's holding on to his prey, so he holds on really tight. We're actually teaching him a new command right now. When his foot gets stuck, we're teaching him the command lighten up so that he can let go of his grip on the glove when we ask him to. So it's our job as the handlers and the falconers to be that stable platform for our birds. And any time that we do unpredictable movements and causes the bird to go off balance, we could be jeopardizing the trust relationship that we've built with them. So on our end, we try to keep them feeling safe and secure while they're on our glove so that they'll be responsive and they'll choose to come to us when we call them. And sometimes Shakar just chooses not to, and it's not for anything that we've done because Max is great there, but sometimes he chooses to go above. Yeah. I should mention too that this is all new relationships right now. Max and Mike are actually our newest Raptor crew members. So not only are they learning their handling techniques, they're also building that relationship with Shakar right now. So it's all new for the three of them. Nice. We can actually control where the bird goes on the glove just by small manipulations that we make with our hand. They want to go to the highest point because often when they perch, they'll perch at the highest point. So if we see how Max is raising his glove, Shakar's going to go to the highest point on his glove and readjust just to be in a better position for handling. And so Max isn't sending him right now because Shakar is telling him that he's interested in something else for the moment. So he waits until he gets his attention back on Max, and then back on Mike, and then he'll send him back. What he just did when he ruffled up all his feathers is called a rouse. They'll do that when they're comfortable. They'll do it to rearrange their feathers. In the wintertime, they do it to actually increase the insulation layer around them. They'll ruffle up their feathers, trap air in their nice soft downy feathers, and that'll help keep them warm. Well, he sees something, I don't know what. It's two different birds. I think we've got a red tail and possibly an eagle. So we'll just let these guys pass. We do have a good raptor population out here. There's an active red-tail nest in our backwoods, and we have eagles' nests nearby. So it's nice though to see them because there was a time when they were on they were a protected species after DDT in the 80s. I think we went down to like 400 eagles or something. So in order to see them back on the rise like that, it's a really nice sight to see. After the banning of the pesticide, their numbers started to come back up. Back to Mike. Sometimes he just tells us exactly what he thinks. He doesn't need words, we know. Extend a little. There you go. And just hold the point. Okay, back to Mike. Oh, okay, so he is open mouth breathing. We're gonna give him a minute. So we have to be really in tune to his body language. When he landed, the weather is quite a bit warmer than it has been as of late. So we watch his body language and he was giving us a sign that he was tired. So we're just gonna slow him down for a sec. We're gonna let Mike and Max switch sides. Sometimes he has a preference to the direction he likes to fly. So we're gonna just switch it up and see if we can set them up for more success. And that gives us a nice time to slow it down for a second too and let him. He's stubborn. Let's see if we can go a little bit further. Step back a bit. Oh, sidetrack. Okay, he's open mouth breathing again. Okay, so let's finish up with one successful pass. So we can set him up for success by coming back in again because we had some luck when we were a little bit closer. We never want to finish on a bad pass. We always want to finish on a successful completion of the task that we've asked them to do. There we go. So we can have a successful finish to the session. So we're gonna grab up his jesses this time so we can switch the equipment out. We're gonna take him off of the creance and put him back onto his swivel and his leash. Who's got the leash? So there's different types of swivels like I mentioned. This is just an alligator clip. This is something just when we're bringing him right back to his mews. We would never weather him or tether him out with a clip like this. We'd use a different type of swivel for that. You just run the risk of it being able to be unclipped easy. So this is just when we're transporting him right back to his mews. Perfect.